Hey there, welcome to the Gyro Step, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, proudly a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. More on that in a second, and GSPN. I am Ty Windisch, one of your hosts, joined as always by the indescribable Rohan Katti. I've done it before, but that's
you also described me before, so
I've done both, yeah.
Yeah. It's fitting, though. I appreciate that. I'm doing well.
Well, actually, you know what? The savage Rohan Katti. Shout out to my buddy Cole, who I was going discing with over the weekend, disc golfing. And he specifically shouted out the part of last podcast where I said 21, 21, 21. And you later said, can he do something for you? As being like very, very funny. So you're the savage Rohan Katti.
I appreciate that. that. But I am doing well. And like you mentioned, more on GSPN later. We do want to shout out and highlight Talk of the Tundra, which, by the way, if you're unaware somehow, is GSPN's Green Bay Packers podcast hosted by
It looked like you looked down at notes before saying the name of the pod. That's why I'm cracking up. I know that's not what happened, but it was like, shout out to Talk of the Tundra.
What is... Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. If you are confused as to why there was an episode on this very feed, if you are listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, there was an episode of Talk of the Tundra with 53-man roster predictions and stuff, as cut day is Tuesday, August 29th at, I already forgot the time.
3 p.m. Central.
3 p.m. Yeah. Okay. You looked it up ahead of time, told me I forgot.
That was about 15 seconds ago, so it's pretty understandable.
It's a long time.
A lot going on in the life of Rohan Katti.
Oh, boy. Don't you know it. Yeah, make sure you check out that episode that is on our feed. Make sure you check out Talk of the Tundra in general. I mean, it's a great podcast as the Packers season is about to begin in a little over a week here, which is crazy to think about. And make sure you check out that episode. Make sure you subscribe. You can find the link at gspn.info, or it's just called Talk of the Tundra on your podcast platform of choice. And if you're watching on YouTube, guess what? It's here too.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've already seen it.
It's on the channel as well. If you're on YouTube, you may not have seen it. The algorithm does algorithm things, but if you're looking for it on YouTube, just click the Gyro Step Podcast Network part and go look at all of the Talk of the Tundra episodes. Yeah, Sunday, September 10th at 3:25 p.m. Packers, Bears, week 1. Can I share a random funny thing do you watch Hard Knocks?
I don't.
I didn't used to. I'm tuning in for the Rodgers stuff this year. Newmock's going to be mad. The dulcet Newmock. But this is a very funny thing. So Robert Saleh is the coach of the Jets. Honestly, a huge dork is what I've got. Not in a negative way, but just that's just how he is. And the Jets must start on Monday Night Football because their first game is September 11th. And instead of calling it week 1, he always calls it September 11. And they clarify in the captions of the show, the Jets' first football game. He'll just be we're getting ready for September 11. Hope you're going to bring that on September 11. It's why not just say week 1? Why use the dates? I guess to remind people if it's coming. I don't know. I laugh a little every time because the Hard Knocks people clearly were we need to make sure the people who aren't locked into the Jets schedule know what he means by this.
The Jets getting ready for.
Oh boy, I didn't even.
Yeah.
I can't segue into what I was going to segue to. The weather is heating up again. It's getting a little hotter out. Let's talk about FIBA quick. Let's talk about FIBA. FIBA World Cup.
There's a joke there I'm not going to make.
Nope. FIBA World Thankfully it's the offseason. The 12 diehard listeners who are tuning in are laughing. Hopefully none of them are offended. Glad this wasn't a playoff pod that we started with the let's just move on. At least it's strictly national.
Just to end it.
We didn't go international with this.
Just go.
Speaking of going international,
yes,
the FIBA World Cup, Greece taken down by Team USA. First half pretty close, kind of like the friendly, not as close as the friendly, I believe. Second half, USA ran away with it. That Team USA bench may be the real strength of the team. The Tyrese Halliburton, Austin Reeves duo has been fantastic all tournament. They ran away with it from Thanasis and Team USA. Bobby Portis not factoring prominently into the rotation for USA. TA is for Greece, coming off the bench for Team Greece. But Bobby had a pretty good game. I believe scored 10 points in only like 11 minutes, added a few rebounds as well. Pretty much looking like Bobby Portis out there. Thanasis did not cover himself in glory in this game, and unfortunately, even worse, but came away with some sort of an adductor injury. He's undergoing an MRI, or at least was after the game. No results on that I've seen yet. But Rohan, what were your takeaways from Greece, USA this morning? The game started at 7:40 Central Time.
It was tough. It was tough, especially if you're like looking at it through a Milwaukee Bucks lens, which we obviously do. So if you want to say, hey, Bobby Portis, like you're not factoring, okay, cool. Thanasis, you're really, really struggling outside of that poster dunk on Walker Kessler late in the game.
It was a Chris Paul moment, though. It cut the lead to 28. Which
that doesn't matter though. It happened.
I know. Well, yeah. Kessler got a nice putback on the next possession too, which also, wasn't as good. But
I mean, it was fine. But it's like, come on, like it's just a highlight, and we're used to TA highlights, sort of in that realm of the game.
But shockingly from you, fair point.
I'm just speaking facts here. It was a little discouraging. Obviously for Greece, now they move into a crucial matchup with New Zealand on Wednesday. Team USA has secured its place in the next round. They've moved on past the group stage. They still have one game against Jordan Treske. I'm just kidding. It's the country of Jordan on Wednesday at like 4 a.m.
That's going to be a tough scene, I think.
We're going to get a lot of Bobby in that game, probably.
Yeah.
A lot of Bobby, a lot of Walker Kessler.
Yep.
Brandon Ingram's probably going to try and score 70 because he just needs to get out of his slump. It's going to be a tough watch. Yeah, future Buck soon come. Check out our last episode if you didn't. If
He's
you
taking the value on purpose. Open your third eye. Carry on. Carry the hell on.
But it was just it was a little bit of a tough scene. We got to see Greece beat New Zealand in order to move on to the past the group stage. Basically, the winner of that game advances.
Yep. It is.
So it's going to be an important matchup on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, and then so the next round, I believe we already know it's going to be Montenegro and what's the other team? Not Lithuania. It's Vucevic. No. Oh, yeah, it is Lithuania. I got it confused with Latvia. Montenegro and Lithuania are the two teams from Group D. I believe they both already punched their ticket to make it to the next round. I think they're both 2-0, and maybe they haven't quite, but that if those two do make it, that will be Vucevic.
It is Lithuania and Montenegro who are both 2-0.
Yeah, so that means then I believe Jonas Valanciunas and Nikola Vucevic, big men anchoring those two teams, which means even outside of garbage time, we might see some more Bobby Portis and or Walker Kessler. Paolo Banchero's basically been US's backup five, but he's probably a little too small for those guys.
He is probably a little too small for those guys, but it's obviously it doesn't help because you are going to be facing those big guys. But he's done really well in that role. Like it's been really fun to see Paolo just be like just massive skill advantage at the five compared to all these other players, and just being a small ball five. He's athletic, bursty defender. He can recover quickly. He's a menace. Well, yeah, and he's a big reason why Bobby is a little bit out of the rotation because that small ball five would traditionally you would think maybe go to a guy like Bobby Portis, but Paolo's really
his shot blocking is just on a different level.
It is.
It's funny because I think we both thought this was an opportunity for Paolo to assert himself offensively on Team USA. I kind of love that he's bought into doing the opposite. I mean, he's still showing some stuff offensively, but on a team with this many creators, I think he's really locked in on making an impact defensively. I think he's done a good job doing so. I've been pretty impressed with how he's played on defense. So going to be exciting to see how that translates to the NBA. But yeah, Bobby Portis, was not into that game at all until the second half, and it seems like
he was really efficient in his time. Though yeah. He was just putting up points in bunches, and it was like, okay, go off, Bobby.
And it seems like like we would expect, knowing Bobby and how his role fluctuates with the Bucks. He's taken it in stride and been a real professional, and just focused on winning his role, right? Winning in the minutes he does get, which is nice. But yeah, not a ton of Bucks takeaways, even though this was their only two players. They guarded each other for a little bit. Bobby, I would say, mostly got the better of TA, but team-wide, I mean, Greece just started fouling every possession in the second half, so not much one player could have done, honestly.
Yeah, and again, it's a shorthanded Greece squad. Again, no Giannis, no Slukas. Like, this is...
Yeah, no Kalaitis, no Dorsey.
It's tough. I mean, to be fair, like we said, Greece still has a shot to advance and maybe should advance, depending on...
I think so. I mean, New Zealand almost lost to Jordan. Like, Jordan came very close in that game.
I mean, to be fair, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson was doing Rondae Hollis-Jefferson things, which is apparently just being...
What?
No, that's the... let me finish, which is apparently being the greatest player of all time.
Those things have changed. Yeah, he's averaging like 35 points per game in this tournament or something.
So... It'll be interesting for sure. Jordan, unfortunately, already eliminated, but Rondae Hollis-Jefferson might have earned himself an NBA.
I was going to say, I don't know if he already has a spot in EuroLeague or something, but certainly he's playing well. And I mean, there may be people out there who think like pretty much anyone can do that. It's really not the case. Like it's
Dennis Schroeder. Like Dennis Schroeder did the same thing. Yeah. He balled out in Eurobasket and got another NBA shot.
Yeah. Yorgos Papagiannis was Greece's best player by far. Really nice game. Defensively hung in there, I would say, but offensively, just great touch. Like in the post, in the mid-range, drained a 3 or 2 as well. You asked me off the air if I would rather have Yorgos or Robin Lopez. I did not think very hard about this. Sorry to the Lopez brothers. Rather have Papagiannis. But yeah, it's, the almost former Buck. Is that who you'd say it?
I wouldn't say that.
What?
He wasn't a Buck.
Well, there was a report. Almost former.
Almost former.
Almost former Buck.
That's just like it's like a crush you had that you like associated with. Yeah. But you guys were never really together.
Let me have that.
No, you got to move on.
With basketball players. With basketball players.
You still got to move on, Ty. I hope you.
Nick Stauskas?
Yeah. Nick Stauskas.
For almost former Buck.
Almost former Bucks.
Speaking of almost Bucks, Drew Timme signed, and they just reported that he signed. I'm pretty positive it's an Exhibit 10 deal. People keep thinking
it should be an exhibit.
It's not an NBA roster spot. I'm just gonna say they're not waiving someone with a guaranteed contract for Drew Timme, which is what they'd have to do. So it could be a two-way. They do have a spot open. We heard earlier this offseason it would be Exhibit 10. This is a training camp deal. He gets a bonus if when he's released during the NBA cut-down day, which obviously is not the one tomorrow, he reports to the herd. So basically a herd contract. I believe last reporting that's also what Jazzy and Gortman has signed to. So both of those guys currently on camp deals, but there is a two-way spot still open. Ty Washington, Usman Garuba, I think both still floating out there. So, the Bucks maybe could be doing some shopping with that open spot. Although, I think two ways. There's no tax penalty for switching players out, so it's not like you're totally locked in. But you don't see teams do it too often most of the time.
Aside from the Bucks year one.
Oh yeah, God. I mean, different story. Bonzie Colson legacy.
Oh yeah. By the way, I think the reporting on Drew Timme signing a contract was his agent posting on Instagram.
and they were strategically vague about it, which I'm not knocking the hustle. Good for them.
No.
Yeah, but I just want to clear that up because actually I've seen a lot of people ask about that. It's almost certainly a camp deal with the herd thing until we hear otherwise, which based on his summer league, he's going to be actually very intriguing to watch in Oshkosh.
Very, very intriguing. He's the guy who's going to dominate
I think
the herd environment.
Certainly hope so.
All right, we're excited to see it.
We are. We're going to talk about our offensive tweaks in just a moment, but real quick, I mentioned we'd talk more about GSPN. We did that, but also Blue Wire. So if you don't know, Blue Wire is another much larger podcast network that all GSPN shows reside within. I also work there. That doesn't really have that much to pertain to this, but just full disclosure. But Blue Wire is doing a public crowdfunding investment round. So if you can own a piece of Blue Wire, it's real, it's a real piece of the company. You can go to wefunder.com/bluewire, BLUEWIRE to learn more. You don't need to be rich to do this. I believe the minimum is $100. I'm looking here. So we're raising the company, not GSPN. We're going to do our round probably next year. Pretty huge market cap for us, but Blue Wire is raising $1 million. So you can be a part of that investment round. own a piece of Blue Wire, maybe kind of, sort of, almost not really be like above us in some ways. So me more than anyone else. So if you want to kind of, sort of, not really be my boss, this is the opportunity for you, folks.
No, it's a great opportunity, and obviously we love Blue Wire. Like it's they've done so much for us. Like we are a part of Blue Wire, so it's like it's obviously we're a little biased in that regard, but we're really excited in the direction that the company is headed, and obviously this podcast is headed. Like we wouldn't exist without Blue Wire. So
that's true. Yeah, GSPN would certainly not. Gyro Step wouldn't either. I founded the podcast 2019 with Blue Wire. I don't know if I would have ever done that were it not for Blue Wire and Kevin Jones, its founder and CEO. So go check that out. I'll put the link in the show notes, but also you can just go to wefunder.com/Blue Wire or ask me if you have questions, would like to learn more.
Find him on the street.
Yeah, just find me. I don't really go outside that much unless I'm walking Sophie, but if you happen to see me on one of those times. Let's talk about offense. Let's get offensive. I think we did that already, but let's get offensive now.
we really started the podcast.
Well, it's on theme, right? We're talking about Bucks offense tweaks. Still can't believe how anyway. And I'll just start with one that's kind of on brand here. I wrote down bullying in two different ways. So, and anyone who knows, especially in Discord, I think it's even more of a bit on Discord. I'm apparently pro bullying. I'm just going to say apparently and move on. But I think the two ways I mean by this for the Bucks offense, and if you missed part one, we did, our spitballing on what the Bucks defensively could do differently next season. That was 2 episodes ago here on this feed or on YouTube. But now we're talking offense. So bullying, I think both picking on weaker defenders, something the Bucks under Mike Budenholzer just did not really do. I won't say at all. Not very often. I mean, how many times can we remember, clearly the team's weakest defender just able to hide over on the wing on, the Pat, the Grayson, whoever it was, the least threatening offensive player, and really just not get drawn into actions that they probably should be. And also, I think the other way I mean this is, do you remember the LeBron Cavs? Like, if they found something you couldn't really defend, I think this is just a Ty Lue thing, they would just do it like 100 times, especially in the playoffs, really. Like, Steph, you're going to guard LeBron on the pick and roll every possession. Like, that's just what we're going to do, and you got to figure it out. That idea, too, because I feel like even when the Bucks find something, they would just go away from it. Like, Brook rolling as the roll man in pick and rolls. Like, we'd be like, oh my God, this is unstoppable for a quarter. Like, why don't they do this more? And then they just wouldn't do it. And they didn't really make the teams adjust. They just kind of went away from it. So I think and I think this whole convo is really about making life easier for all of the players on the Bucks offense. I think bullying the other teams, both individual players and inability to guard certain actions, is like a good concept to just start with. And again, take the difficulty down on what Milwaukee is doing offensively every possession. So what do you think about bullying, Rohan?
I think it's good in this aspect. We'll get into some more later.
I'll edit this. I'll edit this video.
We should, obviously mismatch hunting is something that the Bucks have toyed with in the past. They've utilized at some points, but like you had mentioned, it isn't something that was really featured, especially when it came down to the playoffs. And in this scenario, we're going to be talking a lot about the playoffs. It's really interesting to me that the Bucks haven't done that, because they have players who are very, very much suited to being isolation heavy players in terms of hunting mismatches. If you get a small guard matched up on Giannis, you just depending on the pick and roll scheme, run a screen, get him set up in the post, easy, boom. Brook Lopez, same thing. Khris Middleton, same thing. Too small. We see him take advantage of that the most. Even Jrue Holiday in some aspects has shown that, hey, yeah, if I have a smaller guy matched up on me, I can take advantage of this. It's something that's it's easy. It's low hanging fruit. It's very much low hanging fruit. And again, we've talked to Brad Fisher about this, someone who knows much, much more about basketball than we do. But it's more of how do you get in a flow of an offense if all you're doing is mismatch hunting? If all you're doing is just having one guy try and hunt another guy. But the thing is, you're making a defense think. You're making a defense have to react in real time. because no NBA coach who like is like an actual NBA coach is just going to see his team getting flamed doing one thing and say, oh yeah, let's not change that up. Oh wait, no, sorry, Jason Kidd, Kyle Korver, Hawks heat check. That just came into my head.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's
I think some Bucks fans would say Mike Budenholzer was also prone to some of these moments as well.
I mean, sure, but like that one was egregious.
No,
like,
yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Just look up if you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about. Just look up Kyle Korver heating up against the Bucks.
It's a crazy game.
It's crazy, and you can see. Yeah, that's what happens when you find something that works. Obviously, Kyle Korver was on a heater in that situation. That's a little bit anomalous, but it's that same sort of concept, right? Like you find something, it works, you run it until you can't anymore. Until the defense moves plays their chess piece. It's their turn. They have to play. And otherwise, while you're waiting, you can just abuse that.
You say it's an isolated incident? What happened with Kyle Korver?
It's a deep cut.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if anyone will get that besides, I don't know if any GSPN, Andrew will get it. Andrew will listen and get it. So thanks, Andrew, for taking this in. On that note, actually, I kind of written down two things that you touched on there. One that I just forgot to say as part of my opening thing, weaponizing size more. I mean, this is something we talked about 2-3 years ago that, again, they haven't stuck to, I think, consistently enough. But I called out 4 players. I think you could add Jrue as a 5th, but Giannis, Brook, Bobby, and Khris. Like, all of those guys, if there's a small hiding on them, and it's not, there's like 4 guys in the league who are small, but you really don't want to post up. I'm talking about true mismatches. Just getting into the paint and making it easy. Like, we'll see Brook do this, but sometimes he's just not given the enough opportunity. Just take out the no pass possessions. Like, I don't want to do like a high school rule. Like, I'm not saying never ever, but almost 0 no pass possessions. So the ball should move at least once, really multiple times, every offensive possession before a shot goes up. And I think this may have been the Bucks' biggest issue in the playoffs last season was 0 pass possessions, because Jrue or Giannis or Khris, and Giannis when healthy, of course, would just kind of go try to size someone up on the Heat, put up a contested shot, it doesn't go in, rinse, repeat. It was stubbornness, and it led to losing in 5 in the first round to a play-in team. Like, you need to pass the ball. You need to make the defense work, like you said, and expose some holes. And the Bucks have just been too complacent and not done that enough and made it easier on opposing defenses. So I would really like to see ball movement baked into the offense more in a way that the Budenholzer Bucks were so like go with the flow, let it fly, that it became okay to just, I think this step back 3 with 18 seconds left on the clock is a good shot. It's not. Like, that should be a shot you take if you can't open something else up. And I think this Jrue is probably the biggest one this relates to. I think Giannis as well. But I think Drew's shooting a lot of the time, the playoff issue is he goes from taking those shots every once in a while to having the ball more, to pressing more, and just trying to do whatever worked in the regular season over and over. It shouldn't be able to happen like that. There needs to be some real actions before anybody shoots. So that's like not really scheme, but that's just a principle I would like to see them embrace this season.
Yeah, like maybe let it fly is not the best mentality in that sort of aspect. I mean, obviously, like there's a balance to be struck there between like empowering your players and like you got to get the best out of them.
Does it even need to be said anymore though in 2023? Like, is there really a team that's like, don't shoot an open 3? You know what I mean?
I mean, like,
I think you can empower players. There is a difference there, but like the let it, like really emphasizing let it fly. Like, watch it every game except for like the Spurs and like the Raptors. Like, teams are shooting. It's not, I just think it was overemphasized. Past probably needing to emphasize it. I know shooting is important. I think everyone knows that at this point, except Ben Simmons.
I mean, it's just like, be reasonable. Like, let it fly reasonably. Like, think before you fly. How about that? How about think and then let it fly? Is that a new slogan?
Let open, catch, and shoot shots fly. We can put brackets in.
Yeah, or just let open shots fly. Like, obviously, if you can create an opening for yourself again. Yeah, maybe with the players
depending on your name.
Yeah, if you're Khris Middleton, sure.
If you're Khris, you could do that.
If you're Giannis, sure.
At the rim.
Yeah.
Maybe a midi.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's depressing.
Yeah.
That's made me sad.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's just like here. Where did the Bucks rank in terms of 3-pointers attempted? They were 4th in the league in 3-point attempts last season. 4th. They were behind Golden State, Boston, and Dallas. They got a 40.3 3-pointers a game.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you want to be near the top instead of the bottom, but it's like if you look at like the eventual champion Denver Nuggets, who will also like have a heliocentric big man who dominates inside, like obviously different ways. I'm not equating the players, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They were 25th in 3-point attempts per game.
And their heliocentric big shoots threes. Well, they sadly, Giannis and Joker probably... Does Giannis take more per game?
That can't be true.
I mean, I would not be shocked. It's probably closer. It's definitely closer than it should be.
Okay, let's look it up right now.
I think it'll surprise you. Let's see if I'm wrong.
Jokic took... Oh, man, it's going to be close.
I know. He doesn't shoot that many.
2.2.
Giannis for sure took more.
Yeah,
takes 2.2?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Giannis took 2.7.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's an issue, one. I mean, I get he's trying to work on his game. I actually have a different thing on that we can touch on in a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, it's a great example citing Denver, who also have Jamal Murray, who's a flamethrower guard, Michael Porter Jr., an excellent shooter, Bruce Brown, another KCP. Like, no, I think Denver, the beauty of Jokic is how he creates for guys within the arc, too. I think that's something the Bucks could learn from as well.
I will say, though, Denver is kind of anomalous in terms of their tier of team in this list.
Yeah.
Because it goes like Chicago, Pelicans, Hawks, Magic. I'm reading bottom to top. Lakers, Nuggets, Cavs, Wizards, Rockets, Raptors, Hornets. Like they're a little bit
good teams down. Well, Cavs were good.
Cavs, Lakers, yeah.
Lakers, yeah.
But
Lakers were a weird regular season team, but
they were. And this is regular season statistics. But you understand my point. It's like that doesn't necessarily equate to great. Like who was behind the Bucks? Like very, very close to not very, very close. The Bucks got a 40.3. Next highest was 37.8, and that's the Utah Jazz.
That's a lot. That's a big difference.
Yeah, and then it's the Pacers, the Knicks, the Blazers, then the Heat, Grizzlies, Thunder, Nets, Clippers. Like, you don't need to be
top 5. No,
you don't need to be near the top. Obviously, the Warriors and Celtics being near the top it's like, yeah, of course the Warriors are going to be, the two greatest shooters of all time. If they're not at the top, Steve Kerr, come to the Bucks, please, because you will be fired.
Yeah,
it's like Boston,
Steph's team is always going to be the amount he shoots by himself.
Steph
in any
gets like a third of those.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, but like Boston, Dallas, again, another guy where it's like, yeah, Luka's going to take a lot of his step back. It's a lot of they're kind of similar in vein to the Bucks, where it's like you have that shooter's mentality.
The funny thing too is, I mean, Dallas just wasn't very good, and Boston, I would say one of their biggest critiques from the last season is that they were too reliant because there was an insane stat, right? Like when they shot, I forget what the percentage was. Was it 40% from three? Like below it, they were like under 500, and above it, they were unbeatable. And their whole team just became like, can we make enough threes? If yes, win. If not, we'll lose. And that was like their weakness, was they were so reliant. They were the team that Charles Barkley said the Warriors were in 2015. When he said, I don't think you can win if you're just a jump shooting team that relies on it, which was incorrect with the Warriors because A, Steph and Clay were literally both generational, much better 3-point shooters than any two Celtics. And B, the Warriors also had a lot more cooking in their offense before KD. I mean, Steph's gravity and Clay's got them a lot of shots at the rim, way more than the Celtics take. So I would say the Celtics, I would say, took too many. And the Mavs, in addition to Luka himself, their offense kind of just becomes guys standing and waiting to shoot, and then around Luka and then Kyrie. So I agree. I don't think being top 5 in threes is always a good thing. It's not always bad either, but it depends on personnel. A team with Giannis probably should be closer to middle of the pack. Like, Giannis's shot diet should be more around the rim, and other players should be scoring a decent amount there as well.
For sure, yeah. It's all about having that balance, because if you are a team built around an inside dominant force like the Bucks are with Giannis, you need to have a balance, because you want your star player to get his own and get inside, because that's what he's going to do. He is going to dominate inside, which is going to like skew the percentages. Excuse me. But you also have to like balance that with the opposite gravity. Like if you have inside force, you need opposite gravity, and that's what your shooting comes into play with. And it's just it needs to be sort of like a middle of the pack team in both aspects, probably.
Do you think this is a stat that tells us they were too old and they had to rely on those because they didn't have guys who were getting to the rim, coupled with the transition stat of they were a sneakily bad transition offense for a team with the transition weapon in the NBA?
I think it does speak highly of that, and I think it's not an accident that the Bucks have these like last few years of sample size and like, yeah, we need to get younger and more athletic immediately.
Yeah,
immediately. Like every move we're going to try and make outside of like free agency is going to be like, yeah, athletes now, please.
I mean,
Andrew Timmy. Sorry, Jrue. That was a shot. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I mean, it's true, but like,
yeah.
I didn't mean to call you out.
He was moving pretty well. Summer league. Anyway, what's next on your list?
It actually ties into what you were saying. It's getting to the rim, and not in the way you would expect. I'm talking about cuts.
It was also on my list.
In terms of possessions per game involving like a cut, where I'm using NBA's tracking provided by Synergy. Where do you think the Bucks rank? In terms of possessions per game, not necessarily frequency, but
like 28th?
25th.
Oh, okay. A little better.
25th. Which is just like, and then you want to know the top teams that get there?
Denver.
Denver is second. Warriors are first.
Oh, of course.
Again, yeah. Warriors, Nuggets, Kings, Cavs, and it's like, yeah, these
bunch
are
of great offenses. Or very good for the Cavs.
I mean, then you get Spurs, Raptors, then Heat, Thunder, Grizzlies. Like, yeah, that's where you want to be. That's where you want to rank highly, because you can't just be such a stagnant offense, and that's what leads into what I'm saying. You need to have bursts. This is something that I've been banging this drum for years now, and it's one of the reasons I was really, really excited about Marjon Beauchamp being selected by the Bucks. And subsequently this year, like you got guys like Andre Jackson Jr., Chris Livingston, like you got athletes, guys who can like absolutely like take off from the off a closeout and get to the rim in a burst, get to the rim in an instant. Like if you are not watching them, they will beat you. Like they will backcut you. If you take your eyes off them for a second, they will burn you. You need those types of players in order to support your stars, because if you're just a role player just standing around, you're not contributing anything to the team. Like it's PJ Tucker on offense, except you're not like a great defender in most cases, obviously. But that's sort of what you're going to be if you're a role player. You're just going to be like, man, can I try and get some offensive rebounds? Can I just do this? Like you're going to be the player which opposing head coaches put their weakest defender on. And you have to take advantage of that, as well as what we talked about earlier with like mismatch hunting and stuff. If you're not going to be mismatch hunting every possession, you need to take advantage of the defenders, not only having like maybe not the most they don't have great lateral quickness, but they're also paying attention to everyone else. You need to be able to leverage the fact that, hey, I'm playing with a guy like Giannis, like Khris, like Jrue, like Brook. I need to be able to use that to my advantage. Hey, my defender tries to see, hey, do I need to go help on Giannis? Do I need to go help on Brook, like tag the role with Brook? Do I need to go do something like that? In that instant, you're gone. You have to make the defenders chase you. And the Bucks did not do that enough.
I don't think they did it at all. I honestly think a lot of these cuts that they're tracking are not even really cuts. Do you know who the top 3 players on the Bucks in terms of cuts per game were last year? According to the same data. I have the player view up for just the team.
I don't know, Pat.
Brook, Giannis, Bobby.
Yeah,
those aren't cuts.
No, those are just.
It's like dunker
slips.
Spot getting to the rim. Yeah, it's not a true. The top perimeter player is Jrue at 0.8 possessions per game, and then guess who's 5th? You never would. I hate him.
You hate him?
Yeah.
Who's 5th? Last year? Are they still on the team?
No.
Oh, is it Myers Leonard?
Serge. No, I don't hate him. Serge. 0.6 cuts per game, double the amount Pat or Marjon had, triple the amount Grayson had. I mean, 0.3 to 0.6, but Grayson actually 97th percentile on his 5 total cuts. Scored 1.67 points per possession. That's why you want to be at the top of this list, because cutting is super efficient. If you're getting the ball on a cut, you're probably getting to the rim, and that's the most efficient shot in basketball. It's even more efficient than threes. It's just usually harder to do, which is, I agree, the Bucks should do it more, and this is a benefit of having younger, more athletic players in the rotation. But even someone like Grayson or Pat, I think, should cut more than they do. But it does get difficult when you have Giannis and Brook out there. But the Bucks can still figure some of this out. And I think it ties into some of the other tweaks that we're suggesting as well. If the ball and players are moving more, it becomes a lot easier to cut to the basket.
Here's a reason why I don't think it has happened. And maybe it won't happen again this season. And that's one thing. Passing. You need to have good, intelligent passers on your team. And especially the Bucks. They're devoid of that. They don't really have, they have 0.7 point guards on the roster. They don't have a true point guard on the roster. Who's their best passer? Khris Middleton, Giannis?
Yeah, or Jrue.
Or Jrue. And you lose a guy in Joe Ingles, who was actually a very good passer.
Yeah.
But you, last season on these cuts that didn't exist, they were 6th in turnover frequency on cuts.
Yeah.
It's just even if they are making the right plays, they're not making the correct passes. They're just throwing them at guys' legs or whatever, or they're just throwing them right at bodies. They can't find the players that they need to make, the pass that they need to make. And I don't think that's going to really improve this season unless they start practicing.
Yeah, that would be good. I have a bunch of Giannis stuff left. Do you want to dive into Giannis, or is there anything else you want to talk about that's more general or not as much to do with Giannis?
No, my next thing does involve Giannis, so let's go.
So I think is really, so I'll do this first. I was going to say this to the end because I think it's not going to yield next season results necessarily, but I think Giannis's this offseason focus should be posting up the ancient artifact of the NBA world. And I think I mentioned now because this is something where if Giannis is commanding attention in the post or at the elbow, it would be pretty easy to cut around him, I think, especially if he wasn't right at the rim right away. But as much as the combo has all been this week, right, about the Bucks are getting older, Giannis is getting older, the team around him and Giannis himself, what are they going to do going forward, even if they do keep him, all this stuff that, we talked about last week, we'll talk about forever going forward until we unfortunately don't get to anymore. But I do think as Giannis ages, he does need to find ways that require a little less athleticism to impact the game. And I do think finding a real sustainable post game would be one of them. I say he needs to find it because it has not been around. So the last 4 years, Giannis has scored more than a point per possession on post-ups once. That was in 21-22, so the season before last. Here are the percentile ranks each year among all NBA players for post-scoring efficiency. 54th, 70th, 45th, 52nd. So, basically not good, right? You're used to seeing Giannis stats and everything besides shooting. He's 99th, scoring at the rim, whatever else. Post-scoring, not so much. And this probably makes sense if you watch the last 2 years, because the year before last, it felt like his mid-range game was kind of money. Last year, it was really touch and go. I think this is the clearest way that Giannis could be an effective NBA player later in his career. We're seeing LeBron had to change his game and, still gets a lot out of his athleticism, but LeBron maybe didn't have to change as much because he is also, maybe the greatest passer in NBA history and, all the other gifts LeBron has. Giannis, though, has the size and the touch, and I do think investing in his post game, it may not help the Bucks much next season. I do think it will help the Bucks long term, again, should they be able to keep Giannis, and help him in his career going forward. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah, that's very valid. And wait, so do you want them to do it more, or do you just want him to get better?
I'll do it more.
They already post up a lot.
But does Giannis specifically?
Giannis has 3.4 possessions per game last season. And the Bucks as a team were second overall in terms of possessions per game and frequency.
Yeah, he posted up as much as Nikola Vucevic, James Wiseman.
I mean, yeah, those are like maybe not Wiseman, but like those are post-up bigs.
DeAndre Ayton posted up more.
Yeah, again, like where else is he going to be?
Rolling. Just moving out of the way of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Chris Paul for a little while.
It's just like, I don't know, the Bucks as a team like already post up a lot. Maybe you want to like take that away because it's like, I don't know, like who are you like thinks takes too many attempts? Bobby's at 2.6 per game.
Yeah, that is actually pretty high in the NBA. He's on the first page here.
Yeah, and Bobby was excelling in the Sixth Man of the Year candidate.
Yeah.
And it's like, otherwise you get into 1.8 with Brook Lopez, 0.9 with Jrue Holiday, and
Khris
1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, those are very like small, like less than 2 possessions a game.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to take away those guys' post touches. I just want to see Giannis operate out of it more and better. Not a ton more, but a little bit more.
That's fair. That's valid. And again, number 1 was Denver, which
that's
like they're
dominant. Jokic is first by a lot.
Yes, it's not close. And they were the Bucks. It's funny, they were second in frequency and possessions, but they are 65th percentile.
Yeah.
In post up efficiency, which is just
Bobby wasn't actually that good either. 58th percentile.
You know, you win some, you lose some.
Joker led the league in possessions. The difference between he had as much space between second place was Embiid on possessions per game as Embiid did with, it was a tie, but with like 7th in the league. 95th percentile too. Just nasty. His touch and everything is just really crazy. But like Luka Doncic, 84th percentile, posted up more than Giannis. You look at like the star bigs, and they all post up, or usually around 4 times per game. Anthony Davis was 3.9, Embiid 4.5, and then Jokic 5.2. Jokic is probably a little too much, but I do think Giannis, maybe just take away a couple of those drives, even if we know the drive to the rim is going to be more efficient shot most of the time for Giannis. It also feels like it would take a higher toll on him athletically, like stamina-wise. Maybe just 1 more drive per game into a post-up and work out of it a little more consistently. Like, I would like him, maybe most of the work here is not in games, like just working on footwork and stuff. Get Hakeem in there to work with him a little bit. But I just think generally it's something that will be important going forward, even if it's not super important for this season.
Yeah, I think that's very, very fair to say. Like, it maybe like cut down on the offensive fouls a little bit. Like,
that'd be good.
Yeah, it'd be good. It's just like, it's more of like a well-rounded thing. And like this is getting into what I was gonna say is talking about like post-ups, post touches, and it's just like, if you're gonna take them, and this is a team like I had mentioned earlier who's built to take them, like when you have Giannis, you have Khris, you have Jrue, you have Brook. Can you do something with it, or maybe these are just preconceived notions in our head that aren't actually fact. Like maybe the Bucks don't have players that are built to be isolation heavy players. Maybe we just think that
their isolation numbers are usually very bad for what it's worth.
Yeah, let's pull it up right now. The Bucks were around middle of the pack in isolation attempts per game. Let's see, I can get specifics. They're right near the Wizards, Bulls, Magic, Jazz, Pelicans. They're like dead in the middle in terms of possessions and frequency. But if you want to get into like percentile, Giannis isolation,
was 34th percentile in the league in ISO last year.
The Bucks were 3.4% in terms of percentile for isolation. They were second last to the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
The teams above them, the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Toronto Raptors.
They got to move the ball.
Because it's like, if you're going to be an isolation heavy team, which again, they were around middle of the pack in terms of like actual isolations per game. And those things again are skewed by like guys drawing help and stuff like that. But 3.4%, like you're dead last, and the Spurs don't count. Like you're last. If there's a statistic last season and you're like 29th and the Spurs are 30th, you're last.
Colin Sexton, 97th percentile. Maybe they should pick that back up.
Hey, I heard that's been in the works for a while.
Yeah,
I was told to watch this space.
It's been imminent for 3 months, I think. Not that long.
Yeah.
No, but more than 3 weeks, that's for sure. Yeah. So on the Giannis note, I had more screens of 3 different varieties. I mean, we've talked about this I don't think we need to focus on it. More Giannis screening and rolling is always going to be good. The Khris Giannis they're still their best play. Khris Giannis pick and roll, to be clear. They do it more than they used to. They should do it even more next year. The second kind is smalls who shoot, screening for Giannis and popping. This is something we've seen be pretty devastating. And again, just not something the Bucks have done all that often. But for this year's roster, the 2 players who make the most sense, I think, are Grayson Allen and Malik Beasley. Getting those guys to screen Giannis's man and then pop. It's just really hard to guard that effectively without either giving Giannis a good look at the rim or leaving a pretty good shooter, actually a very good shooter for those 2 players, wide open. The third one. This is something that I've been following this for years, and there is a long-standing trend now. And this is the other way I think Giannis could maintain his effectiveness and superstardom as he ages, making his life easier offensively. Giannis as the ball handler in pick and roll. Giannis for the last 4 years has been their best pick and roll ball handler. And it usually hasn't been all that close. The last 4 years, Giannis going from last year to before. 87th percentile last season, first on the Bucks. 70th percentile the year before, tied with Khris for third on the Bucks. 89th percentile in the championship season, second on the Bucks, tied with Bryn Forbes. First on the Bucks in 1920, 93rd percentile. So dipped down to 70th for the one season. I think that was the year that Brook was out, so didn't have that role partner for most of the season. But Giannis has been shockingly good as the pick and roll ball handler and has not got to do it very often. So I think both Brook and maybe even Bobby screening for Giannis and just conventionally rolling, I just think teams find that hard to deal with because you're always going to be bigger. Your players going to the rim are going to be so big that it's going to be hard to keep them away from the rim. And then the smalls popping for Giannis with that space and the combination of shooting and driving is just devastating. You know, we've mocked Kid a bunch. We'll continue to do so. Going a little bit back to point Giannis, but with actual actions, not just, okay, Giannis, break down your defender and drive to the rim over and over. I kind of think that's probably maybe the biggest change they could make.
Yeah, that is fair. And you can get very, very creative with those sort of actions. Like if you want to have you can even have Giannis be the decoy in that situation. Because you can run sets where it's Brook comes and sets a screen for Giannis. Giannis drives. Brook pops. No one's gonna help on the Brook pop, and that can flow into basically a DHO if you throw the ball back to Brook, and then you got guys like Khris, Grayson Allen, Malik Beasley, who can just get an open 3 if Brook sets a good screen, which Brook is good at setting, and you can you can do so much fun stuff like that, using Giannis's, and then once you sort of establish that, it's you have so many different counters, and it's you might even forget about Giannis just going to the rim, if you play your cards right.
Well, and talk about opening up space for cutters. If Brook is setting a screen for Giannis 16 feet from the basket, it's probably a given that defense outside of those 2 players is going to have to pay attention and, help at the nail or do something, get ready to switch, whatever it may be. That's going to open up opportunity for the Bucks like Grayson, Marjan, whoever, to cut to the rim amidst the confusion as well. And I also think, how many times do we see a team will guard Giannis with their biggest player and then put a smaller guy on Brook? Posting up Brook on those guys is good too, but better yet, we'll use the Heat series because that's top of mind. If Caleb Martin is guarding Brook Lopez, put him in a pick and roll with Brook and Giannis. That means one of Brook or Giannis is going to be moving toward the rim with Caleb Martin guarding them. That's barbecue chicken either way. And that's even easier than a post-up where it's easier to send help. Again, if you go and help on a pick and roll, you've got Giannis looking at the basket with the ball in his hands. If there's a shooter open, he can see that. These are the things I think the Bucks need to invest in more and just making life easier. We want to make life easier for everyone. I think that's that's the point of doing more on offense, is just making it easier for the ball to go in the basket, but especially Giannis, because we've seen the toll it takes on him, the way he plays. I think making it easier on him should be Adrian Griffin, Terry Stotts, Joe Prunty's number one goal offensively this season.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you shout out Terry Stotts in there, because it's like, yeah, he's gonna be a massive architect in this.
Scary Terry. Let Terry cook.
Scary Terry. Hashtag let Terry cook.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that.
No, I said that before.
No, are hashtags a thing anymore?
Oh, I don't know. On X.com?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What other stuff can we talk about offensively, Ty?
I think I'm just about through my list, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much through mine too. But it's like, can you like actually be a decent pull-up shooting team? Like, if like the Bucks are usually middle of the pack in terms of pull-up efficiency, like, is that too much to ask for?
How much of that is just how many Giannis takes? Let's just talk about Giannis' shot selection. Like the threes.
It's not garbage in the playoffs.
No, but like in the regular season, do you think it should remain, like with the post-ups I was talking about, all the pull-ups, threes and twos? Like, should he narrow down what he tries to do in the regular season or not?
I don't think so, because otherwise, when are you going to really work on it?
Yeah. That's the question, though. Does he ever have to work on all of this?
I mean, you want him to, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be that upset, because he usually cleans it up in the postseason, which is good.
Yeah. If you had to cut one type of shot out of Giannis's bag, what would it be? I won't be offended if you say post-ups. I feel like you might.
No. I agree. Post up Giannis, like that's you need to do that, but like maybe not attempts, but like in terms of quality, like yeah, maybe that's what needs to be worked on. But because he's already taken a decent bit.
Yeah.
If you want to go like just the pull up three in transition.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think
he usually does it only when he's like hot, but also sometimes he does it when he's just like wants to get out of a slump. It's like the two ends of the spectrum is when he does it. Yeah. It's
literally a punt. It's like Giannis. There are other players who would shoot the ball, you know.
If you want to get yourself going, like doing a thing you're not going to rely on is probably not the best thing to do. And it's like let's say he's in a slump and he makes that pull up three. What is he going to do? Take another 5?
Sometimes. Unfortunately, we have seen that. The thing about it, too, is, and why the three is so difficult for a slump, like the best shooters in the world are going to make like less than half the time, 45% of the time. And that's like Steph Curry, right? Like trying to rely on that to get out of a slump, unless you are Stephen Curry, Damian Lillard, etc., is usually going to set you up for failure. Like make a shot that, I think to get out of a slump, Giannis should be rolling to the rim and able to dunk. Like sometimes I just think you need to see one go in, and that's when it should be like, let's get Giannis a shot where he makes these at a 75% clip, not a 31% clip. Like just numbers wise. I know the three is worth more, but we're not talking about the points needed in the game. We're talking about what the likelihood is of just making the shot. Like these runs that the Bucks get into, and this is a team-wide thing, not just Giannis, they take low percentage shots over and over, and other teams are like running in transition, getting to the rim. Like I think they need to get to the rim more and just focus on higher percentage shots in terms of like how often does the shot go down, not just the expected points. I think that's a very regular season versus playoffs thing for me, generally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just like, how do you want to necessarily utilize what you need to do? It's just like, just be, I feel like a lot of this can just be boiled down to like, be intelligent about it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just like, you know, like use your brain, think about it. And this is maybe something that just needs to be drilled into them. And maybe it wasn't. And maybe that's why they needed a head coaching change.
I agree too. I mean, now that Javon Carter's gone, I don't really know if I want anyone taking a pull-up three in transition.
Khris?
Is Khris ever in transition?
That's fair.
I mean, hopefully more next season, but
yeah, that's
honestly,
fair.
You know what's funny though? You say Khris, and he is the one shooter you trust. I don't think Khris really ever takes. I think Khris likes to go to the rim in transition.
Yeah, he does. Because
he's too
a
old.
mostly intelligent basketball player.
Well, yeah, and he's just like, he's played for long enough that it wasn't. He remembers most of his career probably. You could not do that. Like you'd get benched pretty fast if you took that shot in 2013 when Khris was coming up.
Yeah, man, that's a while ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like maybe who else would you want to see? Maybe Malik Beasley now.
Yeah. And not really in transition. Depends on the floor, of course. But like even Javon, who was one of the most prolific in the NBA last year, there were some of them that came when like Giannis is out there as well, and it could become so result based. I get uncomfortable with it. Like we like to be process based in our analysis, and a pull up three in transition, it's so hard to not just judge it by whether it goes in or not. I don't know if that's a good way to evaluate.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to establish the trend.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily just the one attempt, but like how it works over the course of like a larger sample size.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I feel like that's the play where I have the hardest time judging if it was a good shot or not.
The pull-up three?
In transition specifically.
Well, yeah. It also
always
like
feels dirty.
How the floor looks. Like let's say it's like a 3-on-2 and it's like you're the trailer and the two other guys have gone to the rim and there's two defenders in the way and you have a wide open three. Yeah, that's a good shot.
Yeah. It is. It just always feels so.
It does feel like I understand. I understand what you're saying because I get that same feeling too. It just feels sort of like, really? Like you have an advantage.
Like, could you go to the rim and kick it out and then a guy shoots a three? Maybe?
Are we boomers?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think we are boomers. I think we're just
me more than you for sure.
We have the same opinion here, but I don't know. It feels wrong sometimes.
I think there's just a very small number of people in the league I'm comfortable with taking them a lot, and I'm fine if no one on the Bucks is one of them. It doesn't need to happen. Like I'm not saying no. We're not saying no threes in transition. It's the pull-up three. I do think the more sound offense is work the ball toward the rim because sometimes it opens up. That's the thing about the league these days. People are so afraid to give up a three. Sometimes if it's like a 2-on-1, the one will flare to the corner versus the rim if you wait long enough. That's why I think you should try and work to the rim first, and then maybe the three opens up, and then you get a catch-shoot three, which I like a lot better, especially if it's corner versus elbow or above the break. I mean, that's a factor too. So I'm okay with not liking it. I'm not gonna stress over not loving that shot, despite what the points per possession for Javon's were last season. One, because he's not a Buck anymore, sadly. But two, because I do think it's sound to not try and do that very often.
Yeah, I think that's fair. What other offensive stuff can we talk about? I mean, I
said this one. I think thing, you're due.
Transition is like just in general, not necessarily like pull up threes in transition. I think a lot of that it gets to what we were talking about last week in terms of defense, because the way you get in transition is by making good defensive plays. Obviously, the Bucks would like to be a better transition team than they were last season, where, like you mentioned, they were kind of like this is not like they're not like where you want to be in terms of transition. Like they were, I think, middle of the pack here. Let me look it up. 11th in frequency.
In frequency. What was their efficiency?
They were 31st percentile.
Yeah, so not good.
Especially when you have guys like when you have Giannis.
Yeah, let's not say guy like Giannis.
Yeah, and you have guy like Giannis.
They were like 21st in the league, I think.
It's not where you'd want to be. And a lot of that can be on the defense, and it gets into like you're getting older. You can't play more aggressive defense because your players aren't as athletic, which means you can't play aggressive defense. Like I mentioned, you can't get out in transition because you're not forcing turnovers. It all feeds into each other. Like it's not just like we can't just say, hey, by the way, why don't you just get in transition more? It's like, no. There's a lot of things that play into that. So it's like what we were talking about earlier, getting more athletic, being more aggressive defensively. That's going to let you be a better transition team because one, you're going to have larger advantages if you have like backcourt turnovers, which for example, like we talked about last week in terms of defense, yeah, maybe blitz, maybe be more aggressive, maybe trap pick and roll ball handlers. Like, yeah, if you do that and there's a turnover, you have an immediate advantage in the backcourt. And that's basically a 2-on-1 or maybe a 2-on-none in transition, which is going to like increase your efficiency. It's more stuff like that that's going to get you being a better transition team. It's all built on defense.
The two teams who are tied for the most points per possession in transition offense last year shocked me. Neither of them did it a ton, but the Sixers and the Nuggets. Yeah, Jokic's full court passing. Yeah,
I get the Nuggets. Yeah, because you got the passing and you've got like the athletes like Aaron Gordon and like Michael Porter, like guys who can just get out and run. Jamal Murray's fast.
It's got to be a lot of Maxey for the Sixers. They, I believe, led the league in and one frequency. They did. The Timberwolves were second. The Magic were third. The Blazers were fourth, and the Bucks. Probably a lot of Giannis there. This is strictly transition, not all and ones, but Sixers getting a lot. Also, just foul baiting.
Yeah, that's also fair.
Harden like just flying through, bumping off.
Maybe not next year.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be flying anywhere except to Atlanta or Miami or other places between games.
Yeah, because he'll be playing in the Southeast Division. That's what you're saying, right, Ted?
No. I'll be hanging out with Lil Baby. Do you know what the funny thing is?
What?
Tim Bontemps saying Lil Baby.
Did he really?
It comes up all the time because Harden is like best buddies with him, and they always joke about how that's what he's going to be doing between games. And just like the draw. Oh, no, sorry, not Bontemps, McMahon. They would both be mad if they don't listen, but obviously they don't know who I am. But they'd both be mad if they knew I confused them. But Tim McMahon's Southern drawl, it's just I can't do the impression. I just really can't. But on the Hoop Collective, whenever he has to say Lil Baby, it's probably funny when I say it too, but it's really funny when McMahon says it.
Oh man, it's just
Bontemps
like,
just says Lil Baby.
Lil Baby.
Lil Baby.
I can't try and imitate the great voice of Tim McMahon.
No, it is really. It is a nice voice.
He has a nice voice.
It's true dulcet tones.
Yes. Yeah,
Howdy,
that's the word I was
partner.
looking for. I couldn't say it. Yeah. Good old band McMahon.
Him and Numa, 2 peas in a pod.
Yeah. But yeah, just isolation or transition, is like there's meat for you to get left on the bone.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm out.
Yeah, I think we nailed the stuff we have in detail. And I think that's, it's not, they don't need to do 1,000 things differently is the point here. Like to recap, move the ball more, players move more, set screens, roll, take advantage of defensive issues for the other teams. Like it's really not a bunch of things. It's not brain surgery. It's just, I've been watching Grey's Anatomy a little bit.
All right, have you? Okay.
It's like once they get hold of you, they don't let go. It's like there's so much drama. It's soap opera. It's not a bad viewing experience, but it's not brain surgery. That's why I thought of it because I said brain surgery. It's not brain surgery. What the Bucks need to do offensively, they just need to. I think you said it very directly. Be smarter most of the time, and that's kind of going to take care of everything we talked about.
Yeah, and let's hope they can achieve that goal this season. It's funny. I think the Bucks they finally announced their preseason schedule. Yeah. Even though all of the opponents had already released their schedules, meaning we knew the Bucks.
Everyone knew the games.
They just didn't release it. Hey, you know what? They got a new admin. Well, maybe that's
true.
Thing.
Yeah.
Learning on I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt.
You do.
I don't know how this transitioned into my philosophies, but
here's a transition.
Ooh.
Little plug, actually, for Talk of the Tundra. Brewers up 2-0 over the Chicago Cubs in Wrigley right now. Crucial.
Yeah, that's a real promo for Talk of the Tundra side.
Oh, I did it again? You know what I think it is? Is Cruising for a Bruising is a great podcast name. For me, the way I Talk of the Tundra rolls off the tongue. Because I'm used to saying my own name like a Pokemon. I'm used to the T sound. So I always think Talk of the Tundra. Cruising for a Bruising, GSPN's Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Brewers up 2-0. Christian Yelich homer.
2-0.
Yeah, Christian Yelich homer, and then Rowdy Tellez sac fly to score sultry Sal Frelick.
Okay. I just saw it was 1-0. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
We're going for win 9 in a row. Hopefully that, knock on wood, that actually happens.
Yeah, seriously.
But it's a crucial time for the Milwaukee Brewers. I almost said the Green Bay Bucks. I don't know where
it's
that
not just me.
Yeah.
Things get confusing. When I'm talking anything but Bucks, I'm like, I don't know, man. Touchdown, Sal Frelick.
Oh, man. No, the ball was it was in the wrong court. I don't know. We don't have a tennis podcast.
No.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Actually.
I mean, make time for this, sort of.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that's fair.
They might. Have they?
I don't know.
They do football. The other one.
Oh, my goodness. It's 4-0.
Oh, let's go. Well, we gotta wrap this so I can watch this game. Mark Canna.
2-run home.
As soon as I started hating on him, it works every time. He took an automatic strike because he didn't get in the box fast enough. I said, Mark Canna even get in the box. This guy's a bum. And before my stream even caught up, he had hit a homer or something like a double. And I was like, oh, okay. Ever since then, tearing it up.
Yeah, 4 runs in the first inning. Great for your Milwaukee Brewers. Make sure you catch up on all things Brewers on Cruising for a Bruising. You can find all of the links to all the podcasts that we just talked about at gspn.info as well as our Discord link, playback link. Everything is in there. All things GSPN at gspn.info. Thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure you subscribe wherever you are listening to this, whether it's on your podcast platform of choice or watching on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you leave a like or a 5-star rating and review, depending on your platform, or both. Might as well do both. And you know what? If you're excited about the Bucks season, tell some people about the show. I'm sure they'd love to tune in. Get some new listeners. We love growing the community. Pod random, and we will talk to you next time.